Good evening, Mihir Bhai.
Good evening, Keyur Bhai.
Yeah,
How are
wish
you?
you warm welcome to our digital meeting, and I am very happy to share that today with us, Mr. Mihir Sanjanwala from Sydney, Australia. So, thanks to the digital technology, today we are discussing for 30 minutes. Mihir Bhai has successfully completed CFP certification in 2013 with me, and then he shifted to Australia, and he is a successful professional in Australia. So, Mihir Bhai, I request you can start with your detailed introduction, and then we'll take it forward for 30 minutes for benefit of CFP practitioner and CFP aspirants or those who are planning to have a career in Australia in banking and financial service sector. Yes, Mihir Bhai.
Well, thank you, Keyur Bhai, for having me on this channel. Well, as you know, my name is Mihir Sanjanwala. Professionally, I have a very successful career both in India and Australia in financial services market. Currently, I do work as a senior consultant with one of the big four consulting firms, advising banks on their financial planning and wealth management businesses.
Okay. So, Mihir Bhai, can you go into little detail starting from your college education, your first job? So, because this is going to be very unique and different video, so I want that this our digital meeting is inspirational or motivational. Those fresher or young professional who would like to make a career in banking and financial sector, or those who are looking to migrate in developed country for better career or better life in Australia or Canada.
So, well, my journey started once I completed my graduation. Okay. There was always a choice. I had a choice of joining my family business or making my own mark. My father always had this thought that, he should make his own mark, and which is why I started my own journey. After completing my graduation, I started working as an accountant for a couple of years before venturing into, a customer service role with one of the large banks in India.
Okay.
Primarily, when I started in customer service, my main aim was to understand what the customer's needs and wants are. What is it that they want? So I worked for a bank and I wanted to understand what are their problems, what are the challenges, what is it they want from a bank, and how best we could help them. With this mindset, I started my career in customer service. I worked there for about, let's say about 3.5, 4 years before, moving into advising high net worth clients. So basically, the idea, the way the idea germinated was my own managing director thought that, since I built a good relationship with all these customers, why not to take that relationship to a next level? And that's how the HNI investment and advisory business came into life for the organization that I was working for in India. Okay. I managed that business for about 6 years before, going to Australia, migrating to Australia. In Australia, I started my career as a personal banker with one of the leading banks in country, Westpac Bank. I was helping or giving general advice to their, their clients. After that, I moved on to Commonwealth Bank as a financial planner, providing tailored personal financial advice to the clients of Commonwealth Bank. Fortunately, I was amongst those group of financial planners whom the bank has given full liberty to do whatever we wanted. So basically, in a span of 3 years, I guess I was the only planner in the country who was allowed to advise on the entire spectrum of things.
Okay, great.
Unlike India, I do not know the current regulation, but in Australia, in order to provide advice, you need to have license. And that license is divided into different areas. So basically, for retirement planning, you need to have a license. Within retirement planning space, you have your defined benefit area and the non-defined benefit area. Again, you have to have a license. Then your personal wealth management, which is your risk planning and wealth accumulation for for younger generation. Then you have a license. You need to have a license for advising clients on complex areas like tax planning, estate planning, age care strategies. Uh, so I was amongst the top 100 planners within the country in a span of 3 years who were allowed to advise on everything.
Good, congratulations, excellent.
Thank you.
Let you are in Australia more than 7 years. Okay, so and if I'm right, you completed your CFP certification Australia in 2015.
That's correct. So my journey, so after completing my graduation, my professional journey was, driven by my work experience. But I somehow felt the need for higher education because, in our profession, education speaks volume. It lays the foundation of everything that you do in your profession. Whenever you talk to a client, whenever you advise them, if that advice is backed by proper education and experience, speaks volume. So I always felt that need, and that's where CFP, the thought process of doing a CFP came into play. I did my CFP with you and Financial Planning Standards Board in India, Standards Board in India. I have prior to that also done my CFA from ICFA University.
Okay.
That laid the founding stone of my journey in Australia. So even before migrating to Australia, that point in time, the requirement was in order to practice financial planning in Australia, you need to have a license which was being given by your qualification. So basically, you need to have a diploma of financial planning, which is a regulatory course that you need to complete in order to take a first step into financial planning. So even before my to Australia, somewhere around 2013, I completed my diploma and advanced diploma of financial planning. Those were two important licenses for me to start my journey in planning. Then I moved, 2014, I started my journey again here in CFP. I have always believed that, CFP for any aspiring financial planner is a vital course. It lays the foundation of each and everything that you do. In addition to that, it teaches you the ethics, which is very important in your professional endeavor. It helps you to mitigate some of the professional dilemmas that you face during your career. It provides you a clear pathway. So that's my journey so far.
Okay, great. It was pleasant to listen your successful journey, and I'm sure that it is going to inspire a lot of young professionals or freshers, those who are looking banking and financial sector in India or in developed countries like Australia or Canada. So when you completed your CFP certification in 2013, and then when you shifted to Australia, okay, so when you were preparing for the Australia CFP certification, so can you share that? Did you get any exemption? What is the value addition is happened with help of the Australia CFP? How India CFPs help you to complete the faster way your Australia CFP certification?
Well, the way I would put it is this way, yes, you get exemptions. So basically, the course structure is universally designed.
Okay.
Every country that you go in, I guess it's divided into 5 levels: level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5, which is the final level. So the same concept applies even here in Australia. Level 1, which was optional in India, is compulsory over here, which is ethics and professionalism. And I guess that is very important. I realized, I was thinking originally that, we know everything. But the fact is that, when you actually go and study the subject in detail and you apply it to a real life scenario, the understanding is profound. Number one. Number two is, yes, you are entitled to exemption. So, you are entitled to, being a CFP in India, was entitled to exemption in CFP 2, CFP 3, and CFP 4. So that, basically fastened my journey in a way. But the fact is that it is, CFP 5, level 5, which is a combination of 2, 3, and 4.
Okay.
So additionally, though you get, you get an exemption in 2, 3, and 4, but the curriculum that is there in level 5, which is basically a summation of 2, 3, and 4. So you cannot really skip 2, 3, and 4. You have to go and study. You have to go and buy books, study each and everything before you appear for your CFP 5. Otherwise, you won't, clear the exam. Additionally, they also require you to do a plan. So basically, you are given a dummy scenario and you're required to present a plan. You're required to make a plan and present it to the client. So basically, either one of the faculty members from the Financial Planning Association of Australia, or you can choose your own, dummy person with whom you want to do a role play. A series of questions are being given to that person, and you are supposed to explain answers to those questions, and those questions would be derived from the plan that you have made.
Okay, good, very good, excellent. So my question is, Mihir bhai, when you completed your CFP certification in India, so you have a knowledge and skill set about financial planning, and as you said that structure is universal. Okay, so what is the percentage differentiation you found? Okay, and how basically you have completed? Because right now, if your video is watching by right now some aspirant, those who are planning to migrate in Australia, and someone who would like to prepare right now in India with his or her CFP certification, so what basically additional preparation is required to pass the Australia certification in terms of preparation or in terms of acquiring new knowledge and skill sets?
So let's divide this question into two parts. Okay. Let's talk about India CFP into two parts.
Okay.
One, the material which is being supplied to you by Financial Planning Standards Board. You read that material, you appear for the exam, and you pass the exam. But I guess I made the right investment. I made the right choice by joining you, Keyur, because I got to know the practical side of things. Okay. I would have passed the exam. Passing the exam is not relevant or is not important in your professional career. When you talk about professional designation like CFP, passing the exam is not important. But the fact that you understand what are the practical implications of what you're doing and how can you apply into a real life scenario was something that I really learned from your course. So I really appreciate the way you were conducting your CFP certification studies in India, and that is what helped me while I was doing my CFP certification in Australia, because it laid the foundation of whatever I. In terms of CFP certification in Australia, as I said, the biggest difference is basically making a real life financial plan. So apart from passing your exams, which is common across all the countries, you're supposed to do a financial plan. You're supposed to make the scenario which is given to you. All the resources are given to you, but you're supposed to make a financial plan and present it to the client. Now, that is one aspect. But overcoming the challenges that you face, or when you're presenting a plan to the client, is something that I really learned of in the application phase of my CFP 5 over here. Which is very cool. So if I were to divide the material that you get from Financial Planning Association or Financial Planning Standards Board, both in India and Australia, and the private coaching that you take for CFP, definitely private coaching will add value because it teaches you, or it explains you the application side of things. How can you apply those concepts into real life scenario? How can you construct a plan? How can you talk to a client based on their goals and needs and objective? What sort of questions you need to ask in order to get responses? So basically, financial planning to me is all about why. Why does your customer want to do certain things? And in order to ask that why, the CFP lays the foundation. The study and the practical application of things lays the foundation. It allows you to ask the right question to your customer in order to get the appropriate responses, which will allow you to make a proper financial plan for them.
Good, very good. I'm happy to listen, and I'm happy to share that earlier also focus was on practical application based learning, and right now over a period of time I have expanded the more number of days training. You attended the training, which is a video lectures. Okay, it was a example 50 hours of training, 7 years before, but now it is a 250 hours of training, and it is more focused on how, as a aspiring financial planner, you can prepare the your client's comprehensive financial plan. And right now, many of my students, those who are either independent financial planner, or we call it India mutual fund distributor, insurance agent, or working into bank, they prepare, end of the training, they prepare the comprehensive financial plan for their client. They are competent to prepare the comprehensive financial plan for the client before even going for the first examination. And after that, passing the 5 exam is the byproduct, because once you are competent, then passing the exam is not a big problem. Good, very good. So now, if we take it forward our discussion, so when you completed Australia CFP, so what kind of the better opportunity or better career growth opportunities you found yourself, or someone who is CFP certificate in India and shift to the Australia or Canada example, and then completes the Australia CFP or Canada CFP. So what could be the opportunities in banking and financial service sector for the CFP certificate holders?
Well, I'll divide my answer into 2 parts. So basically, one, in terms of value addition, the 3-letter word or CFP certificate, you are a certified financial planner, itself speaks volume when you interact with your client. In my professional experience over here in Australia, whenever I have said to my client that I'm a certified financial planner, which is usually part of my opening speech, I guess nobody has ever doubted my credential, my academic credential, or the way I have advised them. Nobody has asked me the rationale, because they know that I'm a professionally qualified person. So that is one of the biggest value add I would say that you derive from this qualification. That is part 1. Part 2, in terms of opportunities, both in India and in Australia, opportunities galore. So basically, either you can be into a client-facing role, which is you can either be a financial planner or a financial advisor, or you can move into a support role, which is basically an associate role or a paraplanning role or remediation roles, wherein basically you're helping the organization with regards to their quality of advice, operational requirements, compliance requirements. So opportunities for a person with the right aptitude and right attitude will galore in both these countries.
Good, very good. And someone who has a CFP certification in India and Australia, and if someone has completed Australia CFP certification, person who is below age 30, so what is the approximately per annum CTC or salary he or she gets based on the CFP certification?
Well, in dollar terms, probably you're talking about starting from $70,000 per year to about $100,000 per year. Okay. And if I were to translate that into Indian rupees, you're talking about at least 35 lakhs to 50 lakhs per annum.
Okay, so if I'm right, $70,000, it is considered quite good income in Australia terms, if I'm right. It is the
average income of any professional in Australia is about $65,000 per year.
Okay.
So when you start your career, you are naturally above the graph. You're naturally above the curve. You're at $70,000, which is above the line. So it's a good start. I'm not saying that is a ceiling. Eventually, as in when you progress, in your career, your income will be based on your performance, your aptitude, your business. The sky is the limit for that.
Okay. And suppose someone who completes 10 years, 15 years, what could be the earning potential? Someone is working in corporate. Okay. Someone came to Australia, let's say age of 28, 29, and started with $70,000 salary. And now once he or she completes 10 years in Australia, what is the expected growth or what is the expected salary we expect?
Well, I'll tell my own story.
Yeah, sure.
Hypothetical example. So today I have my own house in Australia.
Excellent. Congratulations.
Which is, thank you, which is virtually paid off.
Virtually?
Which is virtually paid off.
Free house.
So I'm on the verge of, being a debt-free person in Australia. In terms of income, probably, in 10 years, one could aspire about $150,000 to $200,000 worth of income. But again, as I said, it's never a ballpark or a benchmark that, I have done 150 or somebody has done 150 or $200,000, the others would follow the same path. I know a friend of mine, who works as a financial planner, currently in his own business. Yeah, he came a little earlier than me. He came in around 2008, 2009. Today he has his business, his own financial planning practice in Australia, and roughly earns an income of $1 million every year.
Oh, excellent, excellent. So
no commission, no trails. This is all fee-based advice that he's providing, and from that he is making roughly about $1 million every year.
Excellent, excellent. So why I ask you the question for the benefit of participant is someone who is in below 30, complete CFP in India, complete CFP in Australia, start with the $70,000, and even if you work in corporate, you can achieve a $150,000 to $2,000 annual. And again, second option is available, which I'll ask you in detail. As you said that you can set up your independent practice and earn the good income. So as we have discussed in detail about the career opportunities into corporate or working as an employee. So someone who is looking after completing 5 years of service or maybe 10 years service. So what are the opportunities as an independent professional? Because in India, normally we prefer, I'm talking about 70-80%, they like to work 10-15 years into corporate and then they think something about independent career. So what are the overall opportunities of having independent career in Australia?
Same opportunities apply even in Australia. The way you have opportunities in India, same opportunities are available in Australia as well. The only difference is basically how far are you adaptable, and how far are you willing to travel. As in, what is the kind of efforts that you are willing to put in.
Okay.
People over here are supportive. I haven't, in my entire career of about 7-8 years, I've never experienced any sort of racism or anything, or any disadvantage for people moving from overseas. So opportunities are endless.
Okay. So good to listen. Anyone who is a young, below 30 or below 35, there is an opportunity. Yes, you can either go for a young person can go for a higher education and then basically work into corporate and build a good career, a successful career into Australia or Canada, or someone who is having a professional qualification like MBA or maybe international certification like CFP, CFA, which can help you to get a PR visa, and then you can get it into the Australia and start your career. If I'm right, you also went on PR visa only, no?
That's correct. I went on permanent resident basis, and yeah, my qualification and my experience both played a big role in getting those, or meeting those requirements.
So now, someone who is right now watching our video and getting inspired and motivated. So what are the, basically, you would like to give a holistic view, okay, because there are opportunities are there. I'm sure there must be challenges are there. So what kind of challenges you faced, or anyone who come to Australia first time on a PR visa or student visa, what he or she face the challenges in developed country, and how one can overcome the challenges?
The 3 important attributes that every individual who is aspiring to move overseas should have, in my personal opinion: positive attitude, ability to persevere, and third most important thing is basically resilience.
Okay.
When you migrate to a foreign world or a foreign country, you are going to a different world compared to what you face or see in your home country. sometimes it takes time for you to adjust to that environment. For somebody, it may take, for someone, it may take, 3 months. Somebody, it may take about 6 to 7 months. How far are you willing to able? How far are you able to wait? How far are you able to persevere? How far are you? How far are you resilient? How can you overcome those challenges? Is very important. I've seen people, who have successfully overcome those challenges, including my own self, and made our name over here. And I have seen equally good amount of people, who have struggled and given up. They've either moved back to their home country or basically moved into a different profession altogether. So your attitude and aptitude is very important. That determines what your success would look like. Yes. If you have the right attitude and aptitude, probably you'll sail rather than worrying about anything else.
Yes, you are absolutely right. Everywhere there is a challenges are there, but if you stick to your vision or mission, and over a period of time, with help of your senior or mentors, you can achieve it and you can be a successful. Mihir, you have completed almost a decade, and you are one of the successful professional in Sydney, Australia. So what are your future plan from, we are in 2020 October, so let's say down the line 5 years, 10 years, where do you see yourself, or what are your aspirations and dreams?
Well, I went to Australia with a purpose in mind. I always wanted to learn new things. I always wanted to have an international career.
Okay.
See what things lie on the other side of the shore, and learn new things. That was the purpose that I had in my mind when I left India in 2013.
Okay.
Having spent almost 8 years in Australia, I guess I've achieved all the things that I've aspired for. My personal vision and mission is basically to be back in India. My passion has always been in private banking and wealth management, which is what I'm doing currently at the moment. So I want to continue in that same profession. Where do I see myself in next 5 years? I don't know where, but the only common goal that I have in my mind is basically I want to be either on Euromoney private banking or Asian Private Banker of the Year award list. That is my goal for 10 years.
Yes, wish you all the best, and sure we will do one more digital meeting once you achieve the goal.
Thank you.
So if I'm getting right, maybe down the line 10-15 years you are planning back to India after having a successful career into or after successful international career into maybe private banking, etc.
Correct.
Okay. So Mihir, as a professional, if I come to a discussion, CFP certificate, I always tell everyone CFP certification has a twin benefit. One is the professional benefit. One, we can progress in our professional career with help of the additional domain expertise. Apart from we have our own overall qualification, work experience. So what kind of the personal benefit you got in your life with help of the CFP certification?
Well, I came from a family which originally was a family of landlords. Then came a stage in my father's life where basically almost all his wealth was drained out.
Okay.
One of the reasons was basically lack of planning. He always thought that his business would do very well and he doesn't need to plan for it.
Okay.
And I have seen both the side of stories. I've seen that, I've experienced it on a first-hand basis. And when I've seen the second part of the story, when my father's wealth basically drained out, I really felt that, your planning has to be very perfect right from the beginning. You need to plan your finances in such a way that you don't have to basically repent.
Okay.
That is my personal experience. Professionally today, I guess 1 in 3 people who get divorced financial planning issues, who have financial issues.
Hmm.
The main reason of mental illness today is financial planning or lack of planning thereof.
Okay.
So to me, it's the core of what I do. I both practice and preach the same thing, professionally and personally.
Good, excellent. So if I summarize, you would like to say that if you have done perfect planning or if you have financial planning place, okay, you can have a more happy, healthy, and wealthy life.
Correct. That's the core of of every endeavor that you do.
Yes.
As I said today, I'm debt free
Hmm.
in a foreign country in a period of 8 to 9 years.
Hmm.
That's because of proper planning.
Hmm.
So that in a sense is is the crux of what you practice for your own self and what you preach to others.
Good, very good, excellent. So I always repeatedly share to all aspirants or all investors, when you have a comprehensive financial wellness plan is in place, you are going to achieve your life goal. Again, when there is some uncertainties come, like what we had at COVID-19, many of CAP practitioner personally or maybe their client, they don't find that kind of difficulty because they had a contingency fund, they had a proper medical insurance, so they had a put option that was activated. But those who had a only call option in their life, they found difficulty because they were not planned for the put option in their life. So CAP can help you to do a both call option, which is the plan for your certain event, and put option means it is a plan for also for uncertain events. So what is the, if I discuss in little different way, COVID came 2020 across the world. How did you find that in Australia, how much percentage of the family, if I talk about upper middle class and middle class family example, okay, how much percentage of family were prepared to handle the this kind of situation, financially prepared, I'm talking.
Well, if you talk about countrywide statistics, in Australia, about 30% of the people who have retired over last couple of years
Okay.
would not have enough savings, would be surviving just only on government income.
Okay.
We take about the 20%, top 20%, who are born with a golden spoon in their mouth. They already have enough money in their, pocket. They don't need to worry about, what is going to happen tomorrow. But the people who lie in between, and people who have planned for the retirement well in advance, did not have any major challenges. Yes, markets were bumpy, but again, when you have an advisor with whom you can interact on a regular basis, probably some of the questions that you have when markets are volatile gets automatically answered.
Okay.
COVID to me has presented a lot of opportunities for an advisor. Virtually, I mean, the biggest opportunity is today, most of the clients prefer virtual meeting. Now, virtual meeting, which means, you don't have to wait for an office or a mutually convenient time where both the parties can meet together. The location barrier which was there is virtually getting rid of, is no more existent. People call you up saying, I want to have a meeting with you. Can I have it in next hour's time? Can you figure out a way? You go on to a digital channel and you're able to speak to someone, clarify their their questions or their queries. That helps you in a big way. I'll tell you my own personal experience. I have two clients. One was Mr. X and Mrs. Y. Both were, a senior professionals, qualified, highly qualified. Let's put this way: they have done doctorate in their own field, and they're working as university professors.
Okay.
Before they came to me, they always thought whether should we retire or should we not retire. Despite reaching the age of 62, they had this question in their mind: do we have enough? Will our money last? Till the time we survive, will we be able to, fulfill our, dreams? They had a dream and aspiration of traveling overseas, enjoying a holiday, taking care of their grandkids, and enjoying a peaceful life. They always had this dilemma in their mind. I would not go into the details, but when they left my office, the lady spoke that, today is my 35th wedding anniversary. And this is the best gift that I've ever received. I have a peace of mind, I have a confidence that my retirement is taken care of. No matter what day I retire, I will not have any challenges going forward. Even if I have any questions or queries, I know whom to approach. That's number one. Number two, I had an old lady. She was into an aged care, but her family was a little worried. Health conditions. What should we do and what should not we do? If we don't do anything, probably there was going to be a bigger tax implication, because all the investments were made in an environment which was quite conducive for my original client, but somebody else would have inherited that wealth. Her own kids, her daughter and son would have inherited the wealth in the same structure. They would have lost, 40 to 50% of their wealth only in taxes to the government. So when they walked out of my office, the daughter said, I today have a peace of mind here. Thanks to you. I mean, quality time with my mom rather than worrying about what is going to happen to her estate. I don't have to worry about her estate. That's the impact of financial planning, I would say, or a difference that one would have made into, your client's life. And despite all the challenges that COVID-19 has, thrown at us, this is the outcome that we are being able to achieve, in last couple of months.
Good, excellent. Definitely, those who are prepared and prepared for in terms of financial planning, or prepared with these adapting the new changes. So when there is a challenge is there, catastrophic challenges, it is basically they 20% can convert into a benefit, where 80% struggle, but 20% who are a benefit. So thanks to the COVID only, we come to know about Zoom, and today we are meeting with help of the Zoom. So otherwise, that thought might not come. Yes, we can connect online, we can discuss. Okay, so I understand that what happened in the world may be negative in short term, but the outcome we will get for next 20, 30 years, it is going to be a very good for the all as a society. Everyone is basically having a thought process of digital meeting, or maybe having the proper need of financial planning, etc.
I would consider it as a blessing in disguise.
Yes.
Because most of the investors are vulnerable. It's not their forte, investing is not their forte. And when you see markets swinging up and down every day, for some of them it is difficult to digest. Which is where you need somebody, who can hold your hand during those turbulent times. And this digital channel has enhanced the way we communicate with our customers. You can log into a Zoom or a Skype meeting and, speak to your clients, give them that assurance that, whatever you've done is done with a long-term purpose in mind. Remind them of that purpose. Remind them of, what you have done and why you have done. The most important thing is why you have done is very crucial. And reassure them that whatever we have planned would really work for them in the long run.
Good.
That matters a lot. That matters a lot.
Excellent. So I would like to continue our discussion for as long as much, because I am also learning a different perspective being based in Mumbai. Okay, definitely we discuss on a WhatsApp or maybe some chat, but it is the first time where I got an opportunity to learn directly from a perspective of Australia-based certified financial planner perspective. So to sum up our discussion, what one final message you would like to give to fresher, because in India, as you know that one hand there are opportunities are there, and second hand is the problem with the population. So if I build this subject, every year, example, 2 crore students, specifically they complete the 12th standard, average 2 crore student, and they aspire for engineer or maybe doctor from the big institution, but everyone cannot become engineer and doctor, so they have to look for some different opportunities. Same way, those who are commerce student, they aspire to be a CA, CMA or CS, which is a traditional professional education. Okay, again, there is a limitation on the number of pass percentage, which is of 5 to 10% only. So almost 80% student, they aim for being a doctor, being a engineer from IIT or CA, and 80% we have seen that they could not complete they could not achieve their dream and aspiration. So what could be the alternate pathway where they can look for some kind of a different thought process or some innovative thought process where they think of those who are specifically planning to build career in banking and financial service sector. So how they can basically build the career in such a way that they can either do good in India, or they can get an opportunity in developed country like Australia, Canada, etc.
Well, as I said in my, my own scenario or in my own case, there are 3 important attributes that everyone needs to have: patience, positive attitude, perseverance, and ability to learn new things. So those are aspirational things or attributional things that one need to have before moving into any career. With regards to banking, finance, or financial services, I was just reading a report a few days ago on in one of the popular magazines in India. They have done they've done a survey of people who have invested into markets and people who have not invested into the markets. From the top of my head, I'm talking about retail population who has invested into equity markets is about 8% or 10% of the overall population of India.
Yes, less than 10%.
That's number one. Number two, I'm talking about direct equity markets. Let's combine mutual funds and other schemes. The percentage increases from 8% to about 14 or 15%.
Okay.
The balance amount of money, the balance amount of people who are uninvested or who have parked their money either under the mattress or in their bank accounts is the opportunity for them. They definitely need somebody who can guide them, who can take care of their finances. So yes, the opportunities are there, as I said, but you need to have a right attitude and right aptitude. If you're determined or if you're able to put that hard yard, go and train yourself, go and educate yourself under a right mentor. You'll be able to, sky's the limit for you. Though people say that India is in a challenging environment, to me, there are endless opportunities in India itself. One needs to, be very cautious about that. Or one needs to be really aware of that. There are endless opportunities in India itself. It's just the matter of, finding your own niche and, sticking to it.
Okay. My one specific question, if I ask you, because you are also commerce student, you completed BCom, na?
That's correct.
Okay, if I'm right, it is almost 20 years before.
Yes.
Okay, so at 20 years before, also for commerce student, trend was to do a traditional professional education like CA or CS or CMA. 20 years later, the trend has same continued, but you know that in traditional professional education like CS, CMA, the result is less than 10%. So after investing 5 to 7 years into a that career full time with their graduation or after graduation, we have seen that less than 10 to 15% complete the that certification and reap the benefit of certification. Rest 85% people. So every year, let's say 1 million students opt for the enter into these professional education courses, and end of the 7th year, okay, 0.85 million they basically could not complete, and they themselves find only a plain graduate, okay, and they could not progress in their professional life. So do you feel that if they can think of it, some kind of contemporary professional education like CFP, CFA, or any other professional international certification, so can be a helpful and can be a better than the even traditional CA or CS?
Well, as I said, every profession has their own niche or requirement. For example, you go into a medical field, you're required to be a doctor. Same way, CA or CS qualification are specifically meant for people who want to be either into an accounting field or taxation field.
Okay.
If somebody wants to be in financial planning or in wealth management per se, I guess CFP and CFA are non-negotiable. Unless you are properly qualified. One need to envisage themselves as a professional. If you want to envisage yourself as a professional, you need to back that up. You need to back your claim with a professional qualification. And that's what I guess, or I am a firm believer of the fact that, CFP and CFA both will stand to its true value.
Okay.
Today, when you talk to a client and when you say, you're a certified financial planner, then they don't ask you about your educational credentials again, or they don't even doubt you. Doesn't mean that you have answers to all the questions, but they know that they are talking to a right person with regards to their finances. It gives them that assurance that, when they go and see a doctor with regards to their health, they know they've met a right person. Same way, with regards to their finances or with regards to their wealth, when they talk to a CFP or a CFA or a professionally qualified person, they get that comfort. So if you want to, or if somebody aspires to have a career in financial planning, I guess CFPs and CFAs would be non-negotiable.
Okay.
You don't have.
Good. Thank you very much, Amir. Let me ask you in different way. Suppose one of your close relative, okay, whose son or daughter is completed 12th, okay, and now you are the career counselor for them. That daughter or son doesn't know anything, or parents also doesn't know, okay, what could be the career path. He or she has completed 12th commerce. That is the basic assumption. So at this juncture, honestly, what could be your basically recommendation, how they should, what you will recommend to plan their career or better career future?
Well, the trend that I've seen in India is basically either people do their graduation, which is in any field. So basically ranging from engineering to basically commerce to management. And then most of the people go for an MBA without even realizing the fact that MBA is so generic and without having that right, experience and right, mindset, that qualification is going to be of no use. People do MBA as if, it's like a passport. It's not a passport to your future success. Once you do your graduation, probably, you should look at building your technical capabilities rather than your managerial capabilities.
Okay.
In order to build your technical capabilities, you need to have qualifications like, CFPs and CFA, because they are the founding, courses in the field of financial planning or wealth management. So if one were to strategically approach, their kids' career, probably, they should look more towards technical side in the initial phase rather than, opting for a qualification like an MBA, which is too generic. Half of people don't even understand what the concepts of MBA mean sooner they've graduated out of the college. And by the time they've, worked into a professional career for next 15, 20 years, whatever they've learned has no meaning or no relevance today. So one needs to build on technical capabilities. As soon as you finish your graduation, both in terms of experience and in your qualification.
It was a pleasure to have a discussion with you, and I'm sure that the way you have shared about your honest story, your success, your struggle, your challenges, and how you overcome the challenges and achieve the successful career in Australia. I'm sure that it will give you inspiration and motivation to the many young professionals, those who are aspiring successful in India or Australia. And I'm sure that your discussion also give a lot of education to a investor to having the qualified and experienced certified financial planner to plan their finance in a well, so they can live the happy, healthy, and wealthy life. Any one specific message to CFP practitioner, because you are part of our CFP practitioner group, and you basically know that there are 200, 300 odd participants who have successfully completed. They either work as a relationship manager in corporate or independent professional as a distributor or insurance agent. What one or two quick suggestion, feedback you would like to give based on your Australia experience to be a more successful or more qualitative advisory to their client in India?
People who have done their CFP or aspiring to be a CFP, they have achieved their professional qualification. So when they talk to their clients, they have made the first impression. Number one, they need to bear this in mind. In long term, what works is trust. If you are able to build, or if you build your practice on the basis of trust, honesty, I'm sure success would chase you rather than people chasing success. Building your practice would then become a cakewalk for you. You don't have to then advertise yourself. People will come to you. So always aim to build your practice on the basis of trust, and honesty. Rest things will fall automatically in place. You don't have to worry about anything else. This is my one simple advice to everybody. Always aim to build your practice on the basis of trust and honesty.
Okay. And one more last point. What could be the, because as a CFP practitioner, it is I can say beginning of the new journey, okay, as a financial planner. So to continue their upgradation, what could be the value-added activity they should do so they can upgrade themselves continuously and provide a quality advisory to their client?
Two things. One is basically meet the requirements, the educational requirements which the board has already laid out for everybody in terms of continuing professional education. And there are two ways of doing the continuing professional education. One is basically reading journals and articles and then appearing for those quizzes. But also at the same time, having a mentor, with whom, you work on a regular basis, who gives you ideas and things to work upon, number one. Number two is basically start building on your practice or start building on what you've learned, apply it in your real life. That's how, you're going to grow. That's how you're going to build your profession. So both the elements are equally important, continuous learning is important, but at the same time, application of that learning is equally important.
Okay. So I thank you very much on behalf of all CFP aspirants, CFP practitioner, okay, and those who are watching right now your video, okay. So I thank you very much from bottom of my heart that you have accepted the digital meeting invitation and shared your story. And I am sure that this is the way we are spreading the financial literacy or financial education in society. And thanks to the digital technology, we can physical distance is zero, or you can say there is a digital distance is zero, so we can communicate it and exchange our thoughts. And I'm sure that it is going to be inspire and motivate the many aspiring CFP or we can say many young graduates or fresher to pursue CFP certification or practicing CFP practitioner to take it their practice in a better and next level. So thank you very much, Mihir Bhai, for joining and sharing your story with us. Thank you very much.
It was my pleasure and my honor, Keyur, to be on your channel. And probably I would have done my job if I'm able to aspire somebody and be play that role of of a mentor or allow them to move a step forward. It would be my pleasure and my honor.
Yes, yes. Thank